Hello, friends, and welcome to the Shaman's View, the view from the invisible world. I'm Dr. Alberto Villoldo, and today I want to share with you some lessons about the jaguar. I want to speak to you today about the fearlessness that's required to explore the realms of the shadow. This is known to the shamans as Jaguar Medicine, because the jaguar is the keeper of all life in the Amazon. It has no predators. She has no predators at all other than man. And therefore, she is fearless. She knows the ways of the hidden and dark places and is able to travel through them without any fear of being trapped, ensnared, taken for somebody's dinner. This is what we need to be able to do today as we need to become familiar with our own dark side, because the shamans understand that those parts of ourselves that we keep hidden, even from ourselves, is what we keep bumping into in the world in the form of our lovers, our spouses, our bosses, our children, all of the conflict that we encounter in the world is simply a reflection of an internal map that we carry within us and of a stuck place, a place where we're caught in an eddy or in a tide pool in the river of our lives. So rather than solving it at the level of the next relationship or putting the children up for adoption, much as we would like to do sometimes, what the shaman does is to turn her gaze within and step into Jaguar Medicine and fearlessly go to explore those shadow places, the places that we keep hidden even from ourselves, to the point that we choose to forget, and we forget that they're part of who we are. And it's in these realms that the Jaguar Medicine can lead us to the deepest and greatest treasures, because it's in these dark and feminine places that we find the seeds. And this is where seeds actually germinate. They germinate in the dark. If you've ever had a garden, you know that you have to plant seeds in the dark, that the light will kill them. It's only after they have germinated in the deep, dark, feminine, rich, moist earth that they're ready to begin to feed on light, to make their way out of the dark into the surface and begin to photosynthesize. So this is Jaguar Medicine. It's that skill set that the shamans developed together with the courage, because the skill set without the courage left you at home wondering what to do next. And the courage without the skill set made sure that you were going to be tripping and fumbling all through your explorations of these immensely rich but dangerous domains. So Jaguar Medicine is what allowed you to do this. Now, to be able to acquire the skill set of the jaguar, which is to journey fearlessly, soundlessly, noiselessly, invisibly into these realms that no one else dares to go to, you had to be able to first find inner peace. And we find inner peace by resetting our fight or flight system. This is what they call in the Amazon bringing the jaguar down from the tree. The idea is that when the jaguar gets scared, is spooked by something, it runs up the tree, makes its way up to the highest branches in the tree, and you're climbing up afterwards to try to get it to come down, and it's going, it's scared, it's terrified. It's producing the stress hormones in the brain, the adrenaline, the cortisol, that are so deadly to the brain, and it keeps us in fight or flight. So a little bit of the brain chemistry. Fight or flight produces the stress hormones, and fight or flight is a feed-forward system, whereas just about every other system in the body is a feedback system. Whenever there's the danger stops, you're supposed to stop producing adrenaline. You're not going to run anywhere. You want to sit down and relax. But the fight or flight system will continue to feed forward instead of relying on feedback from the environment to reset itself. And the human brain is so complex that we're the only creature on the planet that is not able to reset its fight or flight system. We lose that ability at about the age of 6 months, when we're no longer able to go through a full system reset, this shaking that you see babies going through and that you see all of the time in nature that resets the fight or flight system. Our brains are so complex that we're not able to go through this great reset. And I know that when I'm caught in fight or flight and I can't fight and I can't run, what happens is that I freeze. And this is the third step in the fight or flight system, is you become frozen. Your emotions are frozen, your feelings are frozen, your immune system is frozen. We are paralyzed. And today the world is in this state. Today we're unable to run, we're unable to fight because the enemies that we're facing are undescribable. We cannot, well, how do you deal with invisible enemies like this viral outbreak that's happening in the planet? How do you deal with the social unrest that's happening in the world today because of the tremendous inequality, which is happening because we've come to the end of a system, of an economic system that relied on the existence of slavery, of masters and slaves. We're coming to the end of that. We're coming today into a horizontal playing field, and access to information and to knowledge has leveled the playing field. So today we're breaking those systems, and the symptoms that we're getting socially, the symptoms that we're getting through the way that we eat and the way that we love and the way that we forgive and the way that we interact with each other are deeply rooted in this end of an era of exploitation of man by man, of humans by humans. But the beauty for the shaman who has the courage, if the medicine woman has the courage and the fearlessness of Jaguar Medicine, is to begin to explore and to discover the seeds of this new time, of the next chapter in the human story. And this is the chapter we're stepping into today. And it requires that we delve and explore those hidden places, the secrets we keep even from ourselves, the shameful parts of our human history. Amazing how in America, that's the land of the free and of the brave and the most successful country in the world, there's so much poverty that 40% of the population in prisons are people of dark skin, are blacks. And when they're only 16% of the population in the country. So we're coming to face the hidden truths that are so difficult to look at. And this requires the collective embracing of this Jaguar Medicine, of fearlessness. But it also requires the skill set. And the skill set is what you and I develop individually, to be able to venture into those hidden places to discover the treasures that lay buried there. But it requires an initiation, similar to what Inanna had to go through when she went into the underworld to visit her sister, Hereshkigal. Now here you have the feminine and the upper world, Inanna, the goddess. She's the creatrix. All of the ancient temples in the Mediterranean were dedicated to Inanna. But her sister lived in the underworld, and she had to go to renew herself to visit her sister. And she went through many stages. In the early stages, she had to take off her veil and her shroud and her earrings of lapis lazuli and her necklace and all of the beautiful adornments of the Queen of Heaven. So why would the Queen of Heaven venture to the underworld? Because even heaven needs to be renewed. So as Inanna begins her journey down through all of these levels, 7 levels that she has to go through, and the final one, she arrives naked in the same way that she was born, and she meets her sister, her counterpart that has been kept in the shadows all of this time, that is waiting to be born with new life. And her sister basically condemns her to death because of her failings. Not because she's been a failure, but because the feminine itself needs to be renewed and to die and to be renewed, much like the cycles of nature, where in the fall all life appears to die, only to be born again freshly in the spring. And Inanna at that time has to go through her death, and she surrenders to her death and is renewed and is able to return back to our world, to the middle world, back to the surface, back to become the Queen of Heaven. And when she gets there, she finds that her husband hasn't been missing her at all. Her husband has been partying and drinking instead of what she instructed him to do, to continue to pray for her safe return. So the husband gets banished. So here the renewed feminine emerges again from the depths to banish the masculine that needs to go through his own renewal, needs to go through his own initiation. So the feminine leads the way in this process of initiation through the depths and the dark, in order to return with new life, like in the spring when all life returns to the earth. So as we go through this process, we are looking at these mythic stories as part of an inner process that each one of us needs to go through. Our own feminine needs to return back to the mother, back to the depths. And it's the feminine, the female jaguar, the only one that explores those hidden places. The male jaguar is too busy exploring all of the nature around the home nest and comes around really only for about 2 weeks a year when the female is in heat. And the rest of the time goes to do what the male jaguar does. It's the female that's the protector of all nature, that explores those deep and hidden places and knows the ways of birth. She brings life, she brings her cubs to life and protects them, and the ways of death, which is what the jaguar represents. Represents a cycle of birth and death, of understanding that in death there is life, the seeds of life are there, and that in life there's also death. So it's Inanna as she returns from the lower world to bring back fertility and abundance to the earth again. She banishes the masculine. And the masculine is how you go about doing things, the structures that you have created, the ways that you engage with each other, that you interact with the earth. All of those, of course, today we need to banish. We need to banish the monetary, the financial, the capitalistic, the market structures that keep people oppressed, that keep wealth from being distributed in a more equitable way. And we've come to that point today. We've come to the end of the accumulation of the great fortunes of wealth, to the redistribution of wealth to everyone in need in the planet, so that no children go hungry, so that there's no one who's lacking health care. So we educate people to eat well, to get healthy, so as we don't continue to feed a healthcare system that's really a disease care system that profits when people are sick, or big pharma that only shows profit for its owners when people are taking medication. And today, of course, we come to what I call the age of Pharmageddon, the end that time of the dominance of the pill pushers that thrive when their customers remain sick. We are in the great revisioning. That revisioning begins with us individually. It begins with daring to take that journey, saying yes, having the courage and having the skill set that Inanna had to go down to the underworld. It wasn't only courage, it was skill. She had to have the tracking ability, which the jaguar has, the willingness and the ability to see into the dark. I remember hiking through the Amazon rainforest, and we were going, a small group of us, through the rainforest, deep in the jungle, and then we would see jaguar prints in front of us. And we knew we were being followed by jaguars. But they're invisible. You can have one right next to you, and it is so quiet that you wouldn't even know it was there. And then when we would see the prints in front of us, we would walk back 20 paces and find that there were jaguar prints behind us. So the great cats had been circling in front of us and behind to see who we were, what were we doing in its territory. And this is the protector, the jaguar, is also the totem animal of the great medicine, of the ayahuasca in the Amazon. And during the early ayahuasca ceremonies, I remember the jaguars would come. We would see them in our visions, these beautiful black creatures, black fur with black spots on them that you could see in the moonlight during ceremonies with the shaman's vision. But then, during the ceremonies, we could hear them growling in the rainforest, not far from where we were. They were attracted to these men and women that were being brave and courageous enough to journey beyond death. Because that's, of course, what the plant medicine is about. It's called the ayahuasca. Aya means death. It's the vine of the dead that takes you through the world. The vine is the rope that interconnects the worlds, that allows you to go down into the depths like Inanna did, to come and meet your judgment. Your judgment is not in the hands of some angel or the people that you have heard. It's in your hands. It's how you will hold yourself accountable during these great transitions in your life, and of course, also at the end of your life. And then you must surrender and die and be reborn. Die to all of those parts of you that don't work anymore, that need to be left behind, that need to be shed. And then you can begin your journey of ascension once again. This is why Jaguar medicine is so important today. We need the courage and we need the skills. The skills are the ancient maps to consciousness. The skills are the ability to see those hidden parts of ourselves and discover the fear and the shame and put those in the fire. And then embrace the treasures that are deeply hidden inside these dark places of our inner rainforest that only the jaguar knows how to navigate through. And then when you find those terrible elements, I love what Mother Teresa said when they asked her why she went to Calcutta. And she said, people were expecting her to say, well, the children needed me. I wanted to take the message of Christ to them. No, she said she went to India because she discovered the Hitler within her. And this is where we must exercise from these deep and hidden places in our psyche, the Hitlers and the tyrants and the mercenaries and the places where we have self-sabotaged. All of those figures in history that in some way live in our collective unconscious as well. We have to clean the slate, empty ourselves of all of human history, all of it, the beautiful and the horribleness. And then we can discover ourselves freshly as if for the first time. You do this through the fire. What you find as you explore your own dark and hidden places, the shame, the blame, the anger, the judgment against yourself, the narcissism, the arrogance, the self-importance, you put it in the fire and let the fire transform it. And then you take the fire and you bring the fire to your moon eye, to the center of your heart, to your love. We know the way. We know that we need these ancient ceremonies in order to be able to change the brain, and that our ancient brain only changes through ceremony. Now, we think that the brain is located inside our skull, and most of it is there. But remember that the entire body is wired, and that there are nucleuses of brain cells, and one of the biggest concentrations of these is in the heart. The heart has over 200 million neurons, brain cells. So as we bring this light into our heart, we're rewiring, reprogramming our brain and our nervous system to reset fight or flight, to find inner peace, and to discover inside those dark and hidden places that only the female jaguar knows, the greatest treasures of our lives. The treasures that will allow us to heal, allow us to quantum leap into that new species that we're becoming, that requires our transfiguration, not only transformation, which is a psychological process, but transfiguration, which is a process of death and dying, of growing a new body, of becoming a new human within our lifetimes. You and I, let's do it. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today in the Shaman's View, the view from the invisible world, and blessings to you.